Madison was almost finished assembling the pop-up tent when she lifted her head and looked toward the campsite entrance. She could hear her sister Abby, but there was another voice that she didn't recognize. Her daughter Violet jumped out of her camp chair and ran to the entrance. Madison got up and followed her 4-year-old. Her daughter saw the stranger. "Who are you?" she asked. "I'm Sean," the man chuckled. "Who are you?" Her daughter answered him, but Madison barely heard the exchange. She hadn't seen her ex for almost 5 years, and he looked different. His face had matured and was more angular. He'd also lost some weight, but in all he was still very solid and manly. Their gaze connected, and she felt an electrical pulse race through her. "What are you doing here?" she said, finally finding her voice. After she finished high school, she had moved out of state. In fact, she was miles away from the town where she grew up. "I bumped into Sean at the comfort station," Abby interjected, embarrassed by her sister's lack of grace. But Sean seemed unfazed by Madison's bluntness. "I'm here with some friends," he said, smiling. "You should come over tonight and meet them." "I don't know," Madison started to say. But her sister had already jumped into the conversation and agreed to the visit. And since Violet was excited at seeing a neighboring campsite, Madison didn't have the heart to object to the new plans. Fortunately, it was a pleasant visit. His friends welcomed them, and Sean was especially nice to her little girl. He had her giggling at the silly stories that he told by the campfire. They invited Sean on a hike the following morning, and every day after that contained new adventures with him. Whether they hung out at the beach, biked, or sat by the campfire, being with Sean made the activities fun and exciting. Later that night, when Madison lay in the tent with her daughter asleep beside her, her thoughts drifted to the past. For so long, she had faced hardship as a single mother. She even dismissed relationships because she kept getting disappointed time and again. But strange feelings took a hold of her ever since Sean re-entered her life. Only a few days had passed, yet he seemed an integral part of their lives. She smiled as the image of Violet and Sean splashing at the water's edge came to mind. But suddenly her smile faded. She knew full well that their vacation would end next week. Likely Sean would forget about them. Would she be able to endure another heartache? If she was smart, she would end things now before she and Violet became too attached to him. With her decision made, she canceled her plans with Sean via text and told Violet that they would stop seeing him. As expected, her daughter had a meltdown. Abby gave Madison a disapproving look. "Sean needs to know about Violet," she said. "No, he doesn't," Madison said, pressing her lips together. "Sean!" Violet shouted when she saw him. All traces of her tantrum disappeared. She ran to him and he tossed her in the air, causing her to laugh. He looked expectantly at Madison and her sister. "What should I know?" he asked, setting Violet down. "Either you tell him or I will," Abby said, crossing her arms over her chest. "It's only right." "I texted you earlier," Madison said to Sean, changing the topic. "Didn't you get my message?" "No," he said slowly. "I left my phone in the car." Tension started to build between them. "Come on, Violet, let's find some caterpillars," Abby said, taking her niece by the hand. Before she departed, she sent Madison a warning look. "Okay, fine," Madison muttered under her breath. She turned to Sean. "Violet is your daughter," she said. "What?" Sean asked. She repeated her statement. He fell silent as he absorbed her words. But when Madison looked at him, she took an involuntary step back. "You kept this from me for 4 years," he said, his tone frigid. "You were better off not knowing," she said, licking her lips. "Who gave you the right to decide for me?" he asked. He started to say something else, but he shook his head. "I can't be with you right now." With that, he turned and left the camp. When he was gone, Abby approached. "What happened?" Madison tearfully recounted the conversation, but having her sister's sympathetic ear didn't help. After she put Violet to sleep that night, all she could do was stare into the darkness. Her mother had threatened her and demanded that she get an abortion. She tried to tell Sean about her pregnancy, but he was too preoccupied with his family issues, and all he spoke about was leaving town. In her darkest moment, Madison felt abandoned by everyone except her sister. She followed Abby's suggestion and moved in with their grandmother. But now she wondered if she had made a mistake. Maybe she should have told Sean about their daughter. Maybe things would have turned out differently. Unfortunately, it was too late now. The damage was done, and he was never going to forgive her. The next morning, Madison packed her belongings. "We're leaving," she informed her sister. "But we have the campsite for another week," Abby said, protesting. "Stay if you want," she said simply. "I want to stay," Violet cried. But Madison shook her head and strapped her daughter in the car seat. She just couldn't bring herself to explain why they had to cut their vacation short. She was set to leave the campsite when Violet shouted, "It's Sean!" Her heart skipped a beat. There he was, blocking our exit. "We have to talk," he said. Madison put her car in park and got out. She started to apologize, but he motioned for her to stop. "Violet is a great kid, and I'm glad I met her," he said. "But why didn't you tell me about her sooner?" "I didn't think you cared," she said, her voice contrite. "I do care," he said. "If you had told me, we could have found a solution. Instead, I missed out on 4 years of our daughter's life." "There's no way I can give those years back to you," she said, swallowing. She explained that back then, she was equally as absorbed in her troubles. And because of this, she had failed to see that she had taken away his choice and hurt him in the process. But all wasn't lost. She wanted to make things right. Madison took a deep breath. "I ask for your forgiveness," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. "And if you're willing to take a chance on me, on us, we'd love to have you be a part of our family." Sean's expression slowly softened as she finished speaking. He reached over and caressed her cheek. "I forgive you," he said softly, "and I'll be honored to be a part of the family." Her heart sang, and Madison went on her tippy toes and kissed him. The past was gone, but they would forge a new future together. What did you guys think of the story? Please comment in the comment section below. I can't wait to read your answers and discussions. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to get the latest stories to warm your heart. Until next time, bye!